Okay, so picture this. A philosopher who looks at the whole world, and I mean everyone, and sees them as sick. Sick with anxiety. And he's not just pointing it out, he thinks he actually has the cure. We're going to travel back over 2,000 years to meet this guy. His name? Epicurus. And his prescription? Well, it wasn't some magic pill. It was something way more radical. A completely new way of thinking. So, does this question feel a little familiar? That constant low-level buzz of anxiety about what's coming next? That feeling that the ground isn't quite solid beneath your feet? It really feels like our modern condition, doesn't it? But here's the thing. You are not the first to feel this way. Not by a long shot. In fact, an entire era of history was defined by this exact feeling. And this really shows you what I mean. It's like a tale of two anxious worlds. Over on the left, you've got the world of Epicurus. After Alexander the Great died, his whole empire just shattered. It was a time of nonstop war, political chaos, and just this deep, profound insecurity. The sources literally describe it as a society that was gravely sick. Now look at our world. Sure, the labels have changed, global uncertainty, social anxiety, information overload, but that core feeling of unease, it's amazingly similar. So, right in the middle of all this widespread societal sickness, this collective anxiety, a new kind of doctor shows up. But he's not a doctor for the body. He's a doctor for the soul. And that's exactly how we need to think about Epicurus. He wasn't some abstract thinker lost in the clouds. He was more like a practical therapist, and he had a mission to figure out what really causes human suffering and then offer a clear, rational treatment for how to live a happy life. And his life was lived right in the eye of this historical storm. He was born in 341 BCE and came of age in Athens just as Alexander the Great's empire was collapsing into total chaos. And it's against this backdrop of complete turmoil that in 306 BCE, he founded a school. But it wasn't a stuffy old academy. It was more like a sanctuary from the outside world. He called it the Garden. Like any good doctor, Epicurus started with a diagnosis. He asked a really simple question. What is the real reason we're all so unhappy? And his answer was absolutely revolutionary. So here's the crucial idea. He believed the problem wasn't the wars or the politics or the economy. No, those were just triggers. The real disease, the root cause of all our misery, was internal. It was a set of powerful fears that were poisoning our minds from the inside out. The first big one was the fear of the gods. See, in the ancient world, gods weren't always these loving figures. They were often seen as powerful, unpredictable, and really easily angered. People lived in constant anxiety, worried that they might accidentally offend some deity who could just ruin their lives on a whim. It created this profound sense of powerlessness. And this quote from Lucretius, one of Epicurus's most passionate followers, just nails it. He saw traditional religion not as a comfort, but as a source of huge psychological torment, something that drove people to do terrible things just because they were scared. The second great fear, and maybe the biggest one of all, was the fear of death. And this wasn't just about the process of dying. It was this deep existential dread about what comes after, the terror of just being gone. Or worse, facing an eternity of punishment in some gloomy underworld. This fear, Epicurus argued, casts a dark shadow over our entire lives. So, that's the diagnosis, a mind completely paralyzed by the fear of gods and the fear of death. Now for the prescription. For Epicurus, the only medicine powerful enough to cure these fears was philosophy itself. The cure starts with a dose of physics, basically a rational understanding of the universe. Epicurus argued that everything is just made of tiny particles called atoms moving through empty space. That's it. There's no grand divine plan, no destiny. The gods? Yeah, maybe they exist, but they're in their own state of bliss and honestly couldn't care less about us. And crucially, our soul is also made of atoms, which just disperse when we die. This understanding of the world leads to his most famous argument, a beautifully simple piece of logic to just neutralize the fear of death. He reasoned that while we exist, death is not present. When death is present, we do not exist. Think about it. We will never actually experience being dead because all experience requires sensation, and death is the end of sensation. It is literally nothing to us. It's such a powerful mental tool to diffuse our greatest anxiety. So, if we're not afraid of gods or death, what's the goal? It is not wild parties or endless indulgence. The goal is ataraxia. This is a crucial word. It means tranquility, serenity, a state of being completely free from mental turmoil. It's the total opposite of those frantic dopamine-fueled highs we often chase today. It's the quiet, stable pleasure of a mind at peace. That, for Epicurus, is the highest form of happiness. And this is so important because it corrects a huge misunderstanding. When we call someone an Epicurean today, we usually mean they're a foodie who loves luxury. That's the myth. The reality of Epicurus' teaching was the exact opposite. He pushed for a simple life because the more you desire, the more you risk anxiety and disappointment. True pleasure comes from satisfying simple needs and, most importantly of all, from the company of good friends. So here's the whole path in 4 practical steps. 1. Understand nature to get rid of superstition. 2. Use logic to eliminate your irrational fears. 3. Seek smart pleasure, always choosing wisely to avoid future pain. And 4. Live simply to reduce your desires and find that tranquility. It's a complete guide to achieving ataraxia. So, did this philosophy actually work? Did people buy into it? The answer is a resounding yes. Epicurus' ideas didn't just stay in a book, they created a whole movement. His school, the Garden, was totally revolutionary. In a super rigid society, Epicurus created a community based on friendship. And look who was welcome. His own family, women like Themista, and even slaves like Mitalus. This was just unheard of back then. It was a true refuge, a place where people could practice this philosophy of calm together. And the message spread like wildfire. A few centuries later, the Roman statesman Cicero, who was not a fan, by the way, complained that the Epicureans have taken over all of Italy. This just shows you how powerful and appealing this message of liberation from fear was to ordinary people. Okay, so it was popular then. But why are we still talking about a philosopher from ancient Athens today? What makes his ideas a classic? This is his ultimate legacy. Before Epicurus, philosophy often dealt with really abstract questions. Epicurus made it personal. He turned philosophy into a practical, psychological tool, a therapy designed to help you live a happy life right here, right now. He empowered the individual to find peace in a chaotic world. And so, his philosophy leaves us with a challenge. In our own anxious world, a world that is constantly selling us quick fixes and momentary pleasures, Epicurus asks us to stop and think about what we're really chasing. When you go after happiness, are you pursuing a feeling that just comes and goes? Or are you looking for a state of being you can actually live in? That's a question we're thinking about.